You're a private investigator?
My profession is very complicated, okay? It's nuanced.
That's a lot of blood.
You beat people up and charge money?
Yeah.
Sad, isn't it?
How much would you charge to beat up my friend Janet?
What?
How much you got?
$30?
That's good. This conversation is over.
The mob is trying to spread its operation to Los Angeles. Somehow, my daughter Amelia is involved. Please, find her.
Seen this girl?
What's in it for me?
Oh, we can do this the easy way. No! We're currently doing it the easy way.
Whatever happened to offering me $20?
It's the recession.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to In Case You Missed It. This is the show where we talk about movies that we don't think enough people have seen or maybe didn't get much recognition when they came out, but we think that are worth your time to check out. And today we're talking about the 2016 film The Nice Guys, starring Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe, directed by Shane Black. This is a detective cop story set in Los Angeles in 1977 and really feels like kind of a throwback to 1970s cop shows, which neither of us are very well versed in anyway, but we kind of follow Ryan Gosling, who's a private PI, and Russell Crowe, who is an enforcer, kind of a tough guy for hire. And they get thrown together to investigate the strange things around the death of an adult film star. And things just kind of take off from there. But I hadn't revisited this movie since I saw it in 2016. I remember liking it a lot then, and I'm glad to say that I still really enjoyed it. What do you think, Scott? Because I know this is another one in the series of one Scott has not seen. And
yeah, I guess we should probably just assume I haven't seen it unless we say otherwise, because that just seems to keep happening. No, I remember this movie coming out, and I remember I suppose it flopped. It didn't succeed.
No.
But I remember hearing about this. But I think even when it came out, people were like, this is actually really good, but nobody went to see it, myself included. I thought it was a lot of fun. You know, Ryan Gosling certainly, I don't know if he's ever done a movie like this where he's just kind of the bumbling doofus. He's done a wide range of roles in his career, and I applaud him for that, just being willing to do different things. You always like to see these guys that could have just become Hollywood pretty boys, and he probably could have, mumbled his way through action movies for his entire career, and he chose not to do that. He decided he wanted to take on some challenges and do this. But I thought this was fun. It's very funny. It's if you want to see, what a Shane Black movie is, it's this. This is Shane Black's, thing.
Yeah.
This is his style. Actually, watching this made me want to rewatch Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because I haven't seen that in I don't know how long.
Me too. Yeah.
Because
Shane's like kind of a little more prolific for his writing, I guess, a lot of like Lethal Weapon and going back to those kind of things. He hasn't directed a lot of, he's directed this, Iron Man 3, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Not a lot of movies, but he's known mostly for writing. But yeah, this is very much in the style of what he does.
What's interesting, I was thinking as I was watching this, and I guess I haven't seen Iron Man 3 in a while, but like when people in the know, when he was announced as the director, and was he one, I assume he was one of the writers too on Iron Man 3, people in the know like had this idea of what Iron Man 3 was going to feel like. And it's funny watching this, you realize that he was probably reined in a little, probably had to remove quite a bit of the Shane Blackiness from this movie, because it's still like that. You can tell why, and if you've seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, like him and Robert Downey Jr.'s styles gel really well. Mm-hmm. But this, this is such a Shane Black kind of movie, and it's fun. I think his style might get ignored because you could argue. I think some people would see these movies as just quippy, and which is kind of a downfall of a lot of big movies these days. But no, this was funny. Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe are great in this. Yeah. But Ryan Gosling is so funny in this.
He's so good. This is really like, I was like kind of looking back at his career, and like you said, he's kind of was like the pretty boy, like the hot guy. And I feel like this is like, kind of like you said, this is the first one where he kind of got to be a little goofy and be silly and just kind of show his comedic talents. He's done comedy before, like in Crazy Stupid Love, there was a lot of comedy there, but he was still kind of the hot guy in that movie. This one's different, and he does really great physical. It's like really great physical comedy as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like the scene in the bathroom where he's trying to keep the bathroom stall door open is just fantastic stuff.
Yeah, and I love that. We like you said, we get to see Ryan's comedic chops in this, and that's a great scene where, for the most part, the camera just sits on him as he's trying to point the gun at Russell Crowe, pull his pants up, and hold the door open on the bathroom stall, and it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it seems like this seems like the first step in him moving towards playing Ken in Barbie.
Yes,
in a
exactly.
way,
Maybe this was his unofficial audition for Ken.
Yeah, pretty much. And this also feels like maybe the most fun Russell Crowe's ever had in a movie. At least from Russell Crowe movies that I've seen, it seems like he's just really enjoying this.
He is, and he's, and I don't know what he's like in person, but like he tends to be a very intense actor.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I was laughing about in this was like he did American Gangster, which is such a serious movie, but I just don't think it's like kind of a washed up cop. That's who he plays in that. And that's, in a sense, kind of the similar character he's playing in this.
Yeah, absolutely. He kind of starts out as this like enforcer guy who's a tough guy for hire, mostly from teenage girls who are either, or their parents who are like worried about different men that are kind of coming around them. But it pretty early on, you find out that he kind of wants to go legit and kind of be his own, be a PI and everything. And then Ryan Gosling is a private investigator detective, and like you kind of learn that he's not that great at what he does, but he's kind of just doing the bare minimum of what he is. But it's funny to see like this tough guy, Russell Crowe, aspiring to be in Ryan Gosling's position, and then seeing their dynamic of chemistry together.
What a very specific niche of work. I mean, I don't know anything about being a private investigator, and I'm sure, you might fall into similar cases because you get a reputation, one person recommends you to someone else and all that. But minor girls who are being preyed upon by older men, like that's your niche. And you know what? It almost does. I feel like the way it's introduced is we get a sense of, like you said, Russell Crowe is he doesn't have his license to be a PI. He's just this sort of, dude for hire, but he seems to have a strongish moral compass. Depends on how you want to look at that. But yeah, the idea that's why he seems to like taking these kind of cases against these girls that are victims of men, and that he wants to. I think he feels a strong sense of justice when he protects these kind of girls, and and like you said, Ryan Gosling's just a fuck up. He's got that. He's kind of in it for the money, or really, he's not. I wouldn't say he's in it for the money, but he is in it for the next paycheck. Yeah, it's about keeping the roof over their head. That's why he does it, and so, and he's bad at it.
He's bad. Yeah, I feel like the plot of this movie, rewatching it the first time again, I rewatched it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I don't know if I'm following the plot of this. I don't know if it matters if I'm following the plot of this. Watching it again last night, I followed it it was much easier to follow what was going on, but I don't know if that's part of just Ryan Gosling's detective work not being very precise and just kind of leading you in different directions. It moves quickly, I think.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The first time I saw this was last night, and I realized, and some of it's just, you get a lot of names thrown at you, and a lot of names of girls, and they're all like a lot of younger. There's Misty and there's Amelia, and how are all these people connected? I think I spent a long time thinking Amelia and Misty were related. They're not. They're not sisters. I thought that was it. I think what throws me too is he has what's Ryan's character? We'll just call him Ryan. Ryan's interviewing with an old woman at the beginning of the movie, and it's played for a joke. And then Russell Crowe goes to his house and beats him up. the point is I got confused at which old lady. He's like, well, this old lady hired me to look after Amelia. And I'm like, wait, is this the same old lady we saw 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll admit, yeah, I was a little better this time trying to keep track of, and I'll admit, even last night when I'm watching this, I think about halfway through the movie, I was like, I was following the stuff with the film and trying to get the film, and all these people around this film were dying, but I completely lost track of why specifically they were so hell bent on finding this girl Amelia.
Yeah. For sure. And I'd read a little piece of trivia that the project was initially proposed as a TV series, but was kind of retooled after they realized the plot wasn't really going anywhere, which, I mean, I can totally see that. This feels like this is really more about these two characters than it is about what's happening in the movie, I think.
100%. That is such a good point, because Amelia towards the end, they look for her the whole movie, and we're led to believe she's important. She is killed without ceremony, almost as a joke. The guy that's trying to kill her, she's trying to run away, and she flags him down.
Yeah.
And I forget what he says.
I think he just says, wow.
He goes, wow, like, you gotta be shitting me. And then she's like, she leans into his window and it's like, I'm trying to get out of here. And he just pops her and drives off.
Yeah.
But I agree. It was in that moment, I'm like, this is not about this girl. It's not about the people in the case. It's about these two.
Yeah.
I assume what they mean by the plot wasn't going anywhere is they might have tried to stretch this into 10 episodes, 20 episodes. And it's just like, we're just meandering. Like, there's not enough going on here to stretch it. And of course, now I was even thinking as I'm watching this last night, I'm like, could you make this a TV show? Would this work without Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling? Absolutely not.
No, not at all. And I mean, I feel like they try to put these like little touching moments in with them of, you kind of get the history, not spoon fed to you, which I liked about his wife, Ryan Gosling's wife, and how like you kind of learn she died in this fire, which was comes with information because he didn't believe her about the furnace leaking gas because he can't smell, which is a funny joke early on that they then bring back into that moment. But yeah, they try to put these touching moments in, which I think work, and I think I like his daughter in this as well, who she's kind of a little sharper than he is throughout. Kind of.
She also fails into success.
Yes.
She comes in towards the end, and what's her name? Tally. And she tries to throw the coffee on her, and it's ice cold. She tries to throw hot coffee on Tally, and it's ice cold. Yeah. And she's like, well, it's just sitting in the hallway. And then Tally ends up slipping, falling, and smashing her head on a table and getting knocked in. Like, she is a lot like her dad. There's even another moment I can't think of where I'm like, you totally fail into success like your dad. That's what you do. She even says halfway through the movie, she goes, God, I need a drink. She's 13. Like, no, I have no idea how to pronounce her first name. Angori?
Angori. I actually looked this up. I think it's Angori, I think.
Angori,
right? I think she's been a little more prominent. She was in the Spider-Man movies, the new MCU. And it's funny, I think her and Margaret Qualley's in this, who's kind of very big now.
She's taken off.
Yeah, they both look, I mean, this was 2016, so it was almost 10 years ago, but they look almost the same as they do now.
They do.
Just a little older, but like, it does not look like a 10-year difference.
Yeah, absolutely. They look exactly the same. But no, Angori Rice is great in this as his dog. And you know what? That was the first thing. Obviously, it takes place in the 70s, but that was the first thing with her getting involved in the case and like sneaking into the party by hiding in his trunk. And I'm like, this screams like 1970s Hook on a TV show. Like, what's the thing we can do? Well, we got these two private investigators and like his daughter, like what's the goofy hook we can put into this to make it unique? And totally with her stuff. And she's a little quirky, kind of had to grow up too fast because Holland's a drunk.
Yeah, she's driving him around.
Yeah, I love that touch because he's always drunk. He's always drinking. That was actually one thing I loved about the end that I really liked about this. In fact, so I kind of thought the movie was wrapping up when Amelia's killed, and that's they're kind of at that, well, we got nothing. She was right. We got no film. We got no evidence. The Department of Justice had her daughter and all these other people murdered to get, to cover her own ass. And I kind of thought that's how it was going to end, because it's like, this is not necessarily a happy ending movie. They kind of still did that. I love the fact that these characters, they don't grow, they don't change.
No.
Ryan Gosling doesn't give up. He doesn't give up drinking for his daughter.
Nope.
And she's fine with it. His daughter's fine. That's just him. He's a drunk. In fact, Russell Crowe starts drinking. Like, is there a specific reason given to why he doesn't drink during the case?
Not that I picked up on. I don't. But they do make a case of him, like, he gets handed a drink at the party and then sets it down. He's very much avoiding it. But yeah, that's funny. And then by the end, they're cheersing and
they're both drinking, and I suppose actually we didn't get our happy ending because they said something where like the auto companies are all getting off and kind of all this stuff. But that's I like that for this story, because like you said, that leans into the notion that this is not about the case and justice. It's about these two.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the line at the end where he's like, at least nobody got hurt. And he's like, a bunch of people died. Well, I think they died quickly, so they didn't get hurt.
Didn't get hurt. So it didn't hurt.
Yeah. But it's funny seeing, like, to jump ahead to a moment where there's so many moments where Ryan Gosling, he's constantly messing up his cases where, he punches through the door of the back door of the bar or whatever to get in and cuts his arm. Just all these moments. And then I think it's like, maybe 2/3 of the way through, they're just sitting there. They got paid, and now he's like, why can't we just have a drink? Why can't we celebrate and have a drink? And his daughter calls him a fuck up, and she's like, you're the worst detective. And they're trying to find this information that was on this note, and he's like, you think he finally cracks it because they think it's a flight number, and he's like, nope, he brings up this information. He's like, it's a flat because of whatever.
It's an apartment,
yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, so maybe he's onto something. And then that's quickly just done away with for the most part. I think, like, that's funny. You kind of make progress with him where you think, like, okay, he's figuring it out. And it's like, no, not quite.
Yeah, and the thing with it's not a flight, it's an apartment number.
Yeah.
And, like, those two leave, and, like, the scene ends on his daughter smiling, like, oh, my dad is a great cop. And I love how we never come back. She still thinks he figured something out.
Yeah, that's true.
Why don't we have it? And I kind of love that because after they get paid from Kim Basinger's character, they get paid from her. Ryan's drinking in his pool, and like he passes out, and he tells Russell Crowe, like, let's meet up tomorrow afternoon. And when they show up the next afternoon to meet with him, he's like, we were at the bank. He's also he bought himself a new suit. Like, starts spending that money as soon as he gets it. Which I assume is why they haven't rebuilt their house. Because I think he's probably spent it all on booze and just, like, he's bad. He's a giant child.
Yeah.
So, you know what I like? And I would say they both give evidence to that. Both of these two, and I don't think they address why either of these two went into sort of private investigating, is I think these two saw too many cop movies as kids. And that's why they like to do it. There's like there's a moment where they're in the bar in the hotel and they're trying to get the guy for information. And, Russell Crowe smashes the bartender's head onto the counter. He's like, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Well, okay, I guess we're kind of already doing it the hard way. Like they're trying to do these cool cop moments that they probably saw in TV shows.
Yeah.
There's a moment towards the end where Ryan's on that rotating platform with a car on it, and he dives behind the car. And he's got his back to it. And he's like, all right, and it's rotating as he's psyching himself out. And he goes 1, 2, 3, and as he like spins around to fire, he realizes he's completely lost sight of his target because he's turned like 180 degrees from when he started. And
Yeah.
these two definitely saw way too many cop movies growing up and assumed that's what the job is.
Yeah. And Ryan Gosling, Holland's very flinchy and just like not super committed to it, but it seems like he wants to be. It's like kind of at that moment at the end where it's like, oh, this is finally my moment to do it. And he's still just the way he is.
He's bad at that. Or when, him and, when Ryan and Russell get introduced together, they're like first seen together, and he keeps thinking he's going to overpower, Russell Crowe, and he tries to like fake him out and get the gun out of the cookie jar, and he fucks that up and knocks it on the floor. Then he tries to crawl to it, and so he kicks that. There's a tiny moment in that scene. The camera's down on the floor with Ryan. Mm-hmm. And as he, after he crawls over to try and get the gun, and Russell Crowe kicks it away. And then there's a thing where he's got his hands out because he was trying to grab the gun. And you see Russell kind of moves his foot, and he pulls it, and he goes, no. Because he knows the next thing he's going to do is step on his hands.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
So it's fun.
It's very fun, yeah.
Buddy cop at its finest.
Yeah. And then I love Russell Crowe just walking out and getting the yoo-hoo from his daughter.
I felt so sad for him because he got this. Well, first of all, he's got the apple. She's like, "Do you want a yoo-hoo?" And he's like, "Fuck this apple!" and chucks it into the woods. But I love that he gets his yoo-hoo and he's like, "I haven't won in 30 years." And then the very next shot, he's got like a case of it.
Yeah.
And then those fuckers break it.
I know.
All over the floor. And I'm like, you sons of... He just wanted some yoo-hoo.
Also, how do you get an apartment over the Comedy Store? That seems like that'd be a kind of an interesting spot to live.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, is there supposed to be a scene where I thought he'd like talk to the owner? Like one line of dialogue with the owner, because it's not his comedy club.
No. Yeah, because it's literally the Comedy Store, and I think like the first time we see him like waking up, like an established shot kind of settles on that Comedy Store sign, and then he wakes up, and I didn't think like, oh, this is where he lives. I thought it was just like Los Angeles establishing shots, and then later we find out, oh, literally he's above the Comedy Store.
He lives there, and yeah. Oh, I want to know something that keeps popping up in this, and I couldn't figure out was specific to Holland March is. Why the bees? Mm-hmm. When they're at the party at the beginning, when they're at the party at the beginning,
yeah,
he's talking to the bartender about killer bees, and then when he like falls asleep driving, he imagines a man-sized bee in the back of the car, and then like the last scene in the movie, they just like do this quick cutaway of a bee on the counter at the bar. And he freaks out, smashes it, and that's the end of it. So why the bees?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Why the bees?
This, when we did Barbarian, that was the movie I thought, we're not going to have any in-depth stuff to really talk about here. But I feel like we got into that more. This movie even more so. Is like, there's nothing really deep to dive into. But maybe the bees are something that we could do an hour and a half on. I mean, analyzing.
I told you, I watched this twice in the last 24 hours, and I got wrote down nothing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it very much.
Fun,
it's very funny, but I don't know, and maybe that's fine. I don't know if Shane Black... I was even looking, like, really reaching, like... But I thought, is Shane Black trying to say something about the 1970s porn industry in Los Angeles? Did he have some very... usually filmmakers of today can't possibly help but squeeze in something in that with that subject matter about women's rights or something, but nothing. This movie's very cut and dry.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that, like we said, I think really Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe really make the movie, because if you get other people in here who don't have chemistry, it's nobody's going to want to watch it for 2 hours. Because the plot, like we said, kind of doesn't really go anywhere. It's not super interesting. I mean, it brings you along just because of these guys are kind of thrust into it. But it's nothing that a typical detective movie isn't.
Yeah, well, and that kind of, to me, raises the question, why do we think this failed? Why did this bomb?
Yeah, because this had a budget of 50 million about and grossed 71 million worldwide, which is not great.
I mean, typically something that leans more into comedy is not going to do well globally because humor is very cultural.
Yeah.
So I can see why this movie wouldn't have been a huge hit in international markets. But I just here in at least in the US, I'm curious why.
Yeah.
I don't know why it wouldn't have done better.
I mean, 2016, it's interesting. I feel like this movie kind of feels like if it was made today, might be like a Netflix movie. And 2016 was kind of like right on the verge of like the Netflix movies really starting to pop off and streaming movies in general. You know.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This would have been a Netflix movie if it came out today. And I think, and certainly now, I don't know, 10 years ago, if this was true, possibly, but nowadays you don't, and I don't know if this isn't a straight comedy, but comedies don't get theater releases or get fewer. You know, they tried with, what's that Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney piece of shit you and I like making fun of? What was that called?
Anyone But You. Yeah.
God, I almost forgot it.
Why did that move? But why did that do well?
But Anyone
It's
But
one of the
You.
few.
And also, what was that Jennifer Lawrence one that came out like a year or so before that?
Was there? Oh yeah. What was? Oh yeah.
It was like an R-rated comedy where
No Hard Feelings.
That's it.
Yeah, that one I actually really enjoyed.
Did you?
Yeah. Did you see it?
No.
Okay. It was actually, I like that one.
I feel it's one of those movies that I know they hadn't made one in a while, but I was like, I feel like I've probably seen this movie already.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were movies where I think they were trying to see it, but, and who knows why some of those did. Like, I think that movie did okay. No Hard Feelings, I think did pretty well. Anyone But You, I actually think bafflingly did well.
So yeah, it did really well, and then it did well once it was on streaming. I know too.
And I don't know. I feel like there was a straight comedy that was released in theaters in the last few months that completely bombed.
That's probably yeah.
But it's just this idea that comedies nowadays, and I guess actually The Nice Guys would work with this. Comedies nowadays comedy needs to be wrapped in something. You know, this is an action detective movie. And part of this you could blame on, I don't know if you blame it, but you know, Marvel movies tend to be very silly. And so you now have these big, high budget, big scale action movies and fantasy and sci-fi movies that are also humorous. So a straight comedy is, and comedy's always been hard to do, but I think audiences are less willing to go. I don't know if they feel like they're getting less for their money. Like, well, I could get a comedy or I could get an action comedy.
Yeah.
Or a horror comedy. You know, I could get something.
I wonder if this movie with this cast and everything, if it came out this year, if it would have done better. I feel like it would have with the Ryan Gosling hype, and even Ryan Gosling last year with the Fall Guy. I think that movie did well.
I didn't think it did.
It did. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. That movie. I also like that movie. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder because, I mean, I feel like maybe post Barbie, this movie does better in theaters.
I mean, I guess I would think Ryan Gosling's not the problem. You know,
no, he's not.
It's not that he isn't bankable.
Yeah. I mean, he was big in 2016, but maybe it's just not the thing. You know, like we said, this is kind of his first really silly role.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe people weren't feeling that.
Yeah, the Fall Guy bombed.
Oh, it did? Okay, never mind. I take that back.
Oh, man, now we got to do that fucking movie. Actually, no, it didn't look bad.
It was pretty good.
It didn't look bad. I figured that it's one of those movies that you're like, I mean, I don't always trust star power because you do have to keep in mind, these are people that do this for a living. Sometimes they just need a paycheck. Yeah. But I was like, you got Ryan Gosling, you got Emily Blunt. This didn't feel like something Emily Blunt would do just for the hell of it. Yeah. Like, she doesn't seem to do that as much. I think Ryan's willing more to just like goofy action movie. Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I think he's more inclined to just do whatever. And I think she's a little more particular. So I was like, this has to be something, but Fall Guy bombed. So okay. Ryan's not the problem, but you know, this kind of brings up an interesting point. Star power. isn't
Yeah.
what it used to be. There was time, and even back, this is why studios basically bought actors back in the 30s and the 40s. Probably, I don't know when that kind of stopped, but, studios basically bought actors because actors were kind of what you could sell a movie on. I think John Wayne is probably one of the best examples of people just literally saw anything he's in.
Yep.
And Clark Gable was one of those guys. A lot of these actors that people just went and saw anything they were in. That's not the case anymore. And I think star power worked right up into the 80s, maybe in the 90s. I know even a long time ago, I heard even Tom Cruise talking about star power, and this was around the time I think Shia LaBeouf took off, Jennifer Lawrence took off, maybe Andrew Garfield. I think they're all in the same age range.
Yeah.
And the idea that these actors they're making money, they're making good money, but Tom Cruise gets $50 million a movie. To my knowledge, none of those three actors I just named have ever made that much money in a movie.
Yeah.
Because star power isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's not the issue with The Nice Guys. And again,
No.
well, in 2016 though, that would have been in the thick. That would have been in this like golden age of Marvel. So, and that was that's ironically with Shane Black directing this. Although this was post Iron Man 3, there was probably this idea that Iron Man 3 was a success, and it's like, well, maybe we can get people to see. But the only one riding that kind of cred is Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
But Christopher Nolan basically made The Dark Knight and then basically made something very similar. Not similar, I don't want to dump on it, but he made The Dark Knight and then he made Inception.
Yeah.
2 big budget action movies. That's how you do it. Shane Black wanted to do a funny, cop drama from the 70s. It's not going to sell as well.
Right. Very true.
So,
yeah.
It's a shame. And again, I'm to blame. I didn't go see this.
I think I was there opening weekend, I want to say.
Were you there really?
I think I was. Yeah, this one was fun. And why weren't you there? Because we were probably both in New York City.
2016?
Maybe.
No,
maybe that was right.
No,
Yeah.
I left New York in 2015.
Was it 20? Was it? Okay.
It was 2015, so I left.
All right. Well, then that's okay then.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny. There's a big issue now where like it's really hard to get people to go to the movie theaters anymore.
Yeah.
And I why is that? And I'm guilty of that too. And the thing is, though, I don't feel that bad about it.
Yeah.
I guess my challenge to Holly would be give me a reason.
I don't know. I mean, I think not a problem, but I think things come to streaming or at least like digitally to rent so much faster than they used to, that people are more patient with it, where they don't feel like, oh, I'm going to have to wait like 3 or 4 months to see this if I don't go see it now. Whereas now it's like maybe in a month or month and a half, I'm going to be able to watch this at home. I feel like that's changed things. Maybe
I think that's the issue. I've heard things from filmmakers saying, well, because people have giant TVs and sound systems at home, they don't. Going to the movie theater is not what it once was. I don't think that's it. I think you're absolutely right. It's the fact that, well, if I don't get around to it in the next month, and I guess the question is for me is that because movies aren't making as much? Obviously, movies are going to make less week to week to week. It just happens.
Yeah.
But is the issue that movies aren't making as much week to week, the drop off? Or is it just this idea that, well, we got to move on to the next thing that might make $1 billion?
Yeah. I think things are moving. I think you're right. I think things are moving very quickly, and there's more things coming out now than before. And there's also things coming to theaters and things coming straight to streaming that people can watch something that's come straight to streaming while they wait for something from theaters to come to their home. And
actually, you and I were talking about this before we got on that, Marvel's slowed down its release schedule because they released when Deadpool and Wolverine came out in July. Yeah. They haven't released anything since then. And was that their only release in 2024?
I mean, they had,
Did the Marvels come out?
Theatrically, I think. That's a good question. I don't know. But then, I mean, then they had like Agatha all along on Disney Plus, if you count that. But
I mean, I was thinking theatrical releases.
theatrically, yeah.
But you think like, yes, there were superhero movies before, but you figure when they're pumping out, they were pumping out 3 or so a year. That is taking up theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is like, if you do get something in like The Nice Guys in the theater, it probably got knocked out quickly because everyone's got to make money. You know, they want to make money. And I mean, that's been killing the movie industry for decades.
Yeah.
This is not Marvel's fault. You know, if we can we'll have a small history lesson here for anyone who doesn't know. Back in and I'm not an expert on this, I don't know all the dates exactly, but I would say in the 20s-ish, probably the 1920s was when, you know, people started, like filmmakers started making films.
Yeah.
They started learning what filmmaking was. You had this thing called the motion picture camera, and like, what can it do? What can we do with it? And, but at the time when that suddenly became a business, a viable business, the studios were run by artists. They were run by filmmakers who are artists who don't know how to run, at the time, a multi-million-dollar organization. So they started bringing in business people to run the studios, which makes sense on paper.
Yeah.
But the problem is the issue becomes from the fact that business people are about, art is about high risk, high reward. Business people are about the bottom line. They're about low risk. They're about, you know, how do we maximize profits and all that. And that is something that has negatively impacted the film industry ever since. And I think we're certainly in a place now where it keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Is there anything you can do about it? No. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Support creative. The good news is the filmmakers who want to make films make good films, whether they're artistic or fun, you know, something like The Nice Guys. They're still there. They're still getting to make movies. There's obviously this talk now about like AI. Is AI going to replace writers and actors and directors and all these people? If it gets to a point it can, studios will try it. And in fact, it's
already like kind of been written in to allow the use of AI for writers now.
Yeah, but the thing is, tell me one movie. I seriously want to know if any movie that has achieved financial success has been in any way written by AI.
Yeah,
and it hasn't. And I've heard jokes, but people are joking, not joking, that, you know, recently Flight Risk came out, and people are like, "This was written by a fucking robot." But my point in bringing up the AI thing was that there's this idea that AI, a computer, can replace writers and directors and actors, and that will take over the film industry. But that's operating on the assumption that people will want to stop making films. Human beings will want to stop. Well, they'll always want to make films.
Yeah.
We might have a very in the next, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, who knows? The film industry might come through a very interesting renaissance.
Yeah.
The studio system might collapse because they'll get too greedy, or it'll get too top heavy. I mean, they have to do all this crap they do now because, I mean, you and I have both been to studio lots in LA. Like, anyone who's been there knows that's a fucking city.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's
insane.
Billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, I'm sure, to keep those things running.
Yeah.
So it's high stakes. So again,
you
do low stakes projects. So
yeah.
So that's where you end up where something like The Nice Guys struggles because, but you know, part of the reason you and I wanted to start this podcast was audiences need to unlearn some bad habits. I would say as a viewer, I totally get why, you know, the big studio, the very common stuff that comes out, they follow a certain story structure, they do certain things, and when that doesn't happen, it bothers people. They assume something's wrong with it.
Sure. Yeah. I was just taking a look at Box Office Mojo for the month of May of 2016. And it's kind of interesting. The Nice Guys came out May 20th of 2016, and right around that time, I'll name off some things that came off. May 6th, Captain America: Civil War.
Fuck.
So that's gonna kill you.
That's it. That's that. You know,
I mean,
that's
really, what are you going to do?
Those Nice Guys did finish last.
Yeah. I mean, 2 weeks after that comes out, that's not going to...
Still fucked.
That fall off from Civil War is not going to be that big. So week to week is that. And then May 27th, X-Men Apocalypse. You can talk about the quality of that all you want, but still the week after The Nice Guys comes out. And then also, so on May 20th, the same day the Nice Guys release, you get the Angry Birds movie, which means all the people who probably want to go see the Nice Guys are taking their kids to the Angry Birds movie. And then Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising, which is the Seth Rogen, Dave Franco sequel, comedy sequel, which, like we're talking about comedy movies, that kind of movie is kind of dead in a way, or it's not in theaters quite. But that movie made $55 million within May, and the Nice Guys made $36 million in the month of May. So a different kind of comedy.
And maybe you've kind of raised an interesting question. Who's this movie for? The Nice Guys. And we've talked about that before in other movies. It's not that these movies are bad, but who are they for? Because your movie can't be for film people.
No.
That's you, me, and like 100 other people. So it can't be for film people. And you get free screeners, so you're out. And I, like you and I talked, we're not fans. We didn't grow up in the 70s. We're not fans of 70s cop shows.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a big part of this movie. It's fun. You know, part of me was like, why? I always wonder when you immediately start something like this, could literally be set in any time period. Why is this set in the 70s?
Yeah.
I think my first thought was, well, they're trying to get back a copy of a film. Yeah, there probably was one. And turns out there's two. Yeah. But, you know, you couldn't do this in modern day because you're just like, well, where's the film? Well, it's on Dropbox and it's on YouTube. And like, well, where are we going to screen this movie? Oh, we'll have to screen it at the, the LA Auto Convention or whatever the hell it was. And it's just, where else are we going to put it now? Fucking everywhere. It's going to go all over the internet.
Very good. That's very true.
But I think you listed off a good point. It's a good movie. It's a fun movie. It's R-rated. That's going to hurt it.
Yep.
That's going to make it struggle to succeed. But like you said with Angry Birds, great example. Anyone who might go see this, they took their kids or their grandkids to go see Angry Birds.
Exactly. Yeah, and you brought up a good point. Like, well, who is this movie for? It's obviously, you know, with the Angry Birds movie, you know who that movie's for. That audience is going. Captain America: Civil War, everybody in the world's going. Neighbors 2 has it's a very obvious comedy. You know, Seth Rogen. That's got an audience already. This movie, you don't really know who it's for until the right people see it. And once the right people see it, then the word kind of gets out. Whereas it's kind of like, you know, a cult following of any movie that's kind of doesn't do well right at the time because it's not clear who it's for. Obviously, I went to see it because I went to see it opening weekend. It's Shane Black, Ryan Gosling, Russell Crowe. The names involved, I want to see this. I like the premise of it, but what's really going to pull just a general audience member to that? I don't really know exactly. And I couldn't tell you one frame of Neighbors 2. I barely remember Neighbors 1. I thought Neighbors had it had Zac Efron in it. Oh, it does. That's right. Yeah, it is Zac Efron.
It's not Dave Franco. It's Zac Efron.
They're both in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're right. Yes.
And I'm going to sound elitist saying this, but The Nice Guys is probably too. It sounds weird saying this. Might be a little too highbrow humor for your general audience. Mm-hmm. And I mean your general audience. You know, I'm trying to think of a very specific example, but of course I can't when I need to. But I know when I sit in a movie theater and a trailer comes on for some sort of fucking Kevin Hart comedy or a Melissa McCarthy comedy. Yeah. You know, they're very cliched comedies they do. And, you know, maybe something happens in the trailer and they scream and then they run into a wall and fall over, which has probably been done in a million times in film. But there's always people that erupt in laughter. They can't see that enough.
Yep.
And the people that want to see that kind of thing, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but that very slapstick kind of comedy, they're not going to go see The Nice Guys.
No. Even though The Nice Guys has much better physical comedy than any of those.
But you know what? It's no one shit their pants, no one threw up in this, and that's it. It's gross humor. Humor has I fucking hate gross humor.
Yeah,
that's a personal taste. If you think people throwing up is funny, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like that's so gross when people throw up. I hate it. Did you make me watch Zach and Miri make a porno?
I don't know if I made you, but I probably did. Oh yeah, I mean that's.
At the very least, you're probably the reason I watched Zach and Miri make a porno. And when that girl shits on the fucking camera, that image still pops into my head sometime. Why did I go see Tusk after that too? You and your fucking making me watch Kevin Smith movies.
And the next episode is
no, we will never do it. We may never do a Kevin Smith movie on this podcast.
That's fair.
You motherfucker. That still pops into my head sometimes, is that shot of that girl shitting all over the camera.
Well, it's not the best Kevin Smith movie, so I will say that.
You said that is the best.
It's not the best Kevin Smith movie. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's a plethora.
That's a lower level.
Kevin Smith movie. Yeah, they're all lower level. He's got his own audience.
He does, and he's Well, I won't talk about him, but
you might as well. We got to fill some time.
That's true.
You want to talk about Kevin Smith?
Always.
Actually, just because I thought about this, and maybe we'll each take a turn on a rant we've been dying to squeeze into this podcast since we're struggling for some. I feel bad for The Nice Guys. I really do. Going into this, they're really and we've probably spoiled the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we'll reiterate this at the end, but like people should watch this movie.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like you said, it's a Netflix. It's on Netflix.
It's literally on Netflix now.
It's just under 2 hours. It's a lot of fun. It's very funny. It's well performed. And I almost like the idea that it's expertly, it's very well crafted. It's well cast.
Yeah.
It's not, to the best of our knowledge, it's not the kind of movie that is trying to say anything. It's not trying to be, and especially in an age where people are kind of getting sick of Hollywood trying to be super political.
Mm-hmm.
This is not it. It's fun.
No. Yeah.
These guys are just having a good time. It's a great cop movie. It's a pretty solid mystery.
Yeah.
So go see this movie, and we'll probably say that again at the end. But I wanted to, and I told you this, that I recently watched for the first time ever. I've been trying to catch up on movies I should have seen up to this point. But I watched Alien and I watched Aliens. I've never seen those movies before. I never really got into Alien or Predator. I never got into it before. I think up to that point, the only thing I'd seen was AVP, the first AVP movie.
Okay, that's a bad start.
Which is not the movie. I already knew that was not the movie to start on. No, but my point in bringing those up is that, you know, usually when I watch movies that are considered classics, if you watch them now, they're so popular and so well regarded that if you watch them now, everyone has tried to copy them so many times that what was new and fresh when those films came out has now been done to death.
Yeah.
But god damn, both those movies are good.
And for very different reasons.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Obviously, famously, Alien is more of a horror movie. Alien's more of a horror movie, whereas Aliens is more of an action movie. But they both have tension, which is something severely lacking from films, certainly action films. I love, and I just, you know, one thing I think is fun about filmmaking now is we basically have every tool at our disposal. So as filmmakers, you have to ask yourself, well, what do you want to do with all of it? And I love, you know, Alien is shot at a very tight aspect ratio, like a CinemaScope aspect, which adds to the claustrophobia. Whereas Aliens is shot, it looks like just your standard 16:9 aspect. It's your TV's aspect ratio.
Yeah,
it's shot at that, which loses that sense of claustrophobia, that horror sense. But what that adds is scope. You know, it gives you these bigger frames, and so there's more action. There's more going on in the frame. But Aliens, let me talk about Aliens really quick, and then I'll stop because I'm just going to go on a rant here. Action movies in large part, your mainstream action movies these days have no fucking balls, which is ironic given Ripley. But these movies have no, like, my most recent example, and I know there's tons of them, but for some reason the movie that always pops into my head of garbage action movies of the present day is fucking Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh yeah,
because the first time Thor faces our big bad villain, the guy that for 2 fucking hours we're supposed to believe is a threat, Thor and all his buddies are making jokes and like they're chatting through the whole fucking fight with whoever it was, Christian Bale and his army.
Yeah.
They're chatting through the whole thing. And the thing I works so well in Aliens is, I know I'm treading new ground here by talking about why Aliens is good, but I remember, the Marines are arrogant, right? They're really cocky. I texted you when I was watching this movie, didn't I?
Yeah,
and I was like, is this the first movie to do the over cocky Marines? Was this the first movie to do it, or is this the most cliched movie in history? But the reason it works is because Ripley never stops reminding us of the threat. And she never takes it lightly. And my favorite scene in that movie is when they find that woman and she's telling her to kill him, and the xenomorph pops out of her chest, and Ripley Ripley has like a PTSD attack, like fantastic. So at least one person in this fucking movie keeps reminding me that we are in some very scary shit here, and no one in these goddamn sons of bitch fucking superhero movies is ever scared.
No, very true.
You're not in danger. If I don't think you're in danger, I don't think any of us are in danger.
Mm-mm.
If Thor's fucking fine, then I'm just going to assume everything's fine.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's Taika taking Ragnarok and finding that fine line so well, and then he just he went way too far with it in Love and Thunder.
He did. And it's just, and you know what it is? And I'm not saying every filmmaker's like this now. They're definitely not. Although if I had to list filmmakers their movies had some real tension, some real danger, a real sense of like, this is, they would all be older filmmakers. It would be Ridley Scott. It would be Martin Scorsese. It would be Christopher Nolan, who's not of the same age as those gentlemen, but he's the only one doing it right, isn't he?
Him and Denis Villeneuve and
Denis, yes. Good call. Yes, we need to throw Denis because Denis not fucking it up.
No.
Denis had to make, what did Denis make? Like 4 or 5, 6 sci-fi movies before people finally got that he's like really good at this.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. There's no jokes in Dune.
No.
I'm not against humor.
No. But even there is like, the constant, like Javier Bardem in Dune Part 2 is hilarious. But it fits. It fits in the story. It progresses the story. The humor does.
It's not removing.
No.
It's not diffusing tension. It's okay to
it's
make me feel tense.
Yeah.
That's the thing I loved about those 2 Alien movies is Ripley specifically is this woman is just having the worst day. And even when it's all said and done, I don't think she has a quip. Nothing. You know why? She's fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
She just had the worst goddamn day. And so like, it's okay. I think I might have said this on the podcast before that I heard Aaron Sorkin say that one of the things new screenwriters do, the thing they do wrong is they're too nice to their protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
That, typically because their protagonist is usually based on them. So they're too nice to them.
Right.
That's it. I mentioned this last time with Furiosa, and that George Miller, another older filmmaker who does a good job at this, is just take a giant shit on him. That's what you're supposed to do.
You said you don't like to when they take a shit on people.
Metaphorically, metaphorically, in their movies.
That's fair then.
I want someone to take an actual dump on my chest.
It's funny you're talking about like Alien and Aliens, whether they started the cliches or are they the most cliched. And I remember a funny interview with Daniel Craig talking about how they had so much trouble with the Bond movies like so recently just because of Austin Powers, which is a series that like the maker, like Mike Myers, and they all love James Bond movies and just like made jokes that now people watch James Bond movies and are like, is this supposed to be silly? And James, like 007 James Bond, that's my favorite franchise. I just love the way that kind of tells in a way like the history of action movies over 60 years. I think it's really cool just to see the progression that series goes through as kind of like a controlled group of like being able to see the same character over time. But even those like, I love Daniel Craig's run, but they're still following their formula. And really like but now I think Mission Impossible is doing James Bond better than James Bond's doing it. And that's, talking about like Tom Cruise, who maybe is really the last true movie star and the last real action hero, I think. He's really, they're taking that series that started 30 years ago and progressing with the time of like, and innovating the way action movies should be done.
And then that's
really cool.
I mean, that's just the movies where like the first one was like 30 with Tom Cruise, but you had the TV series before that.
True.
And, well, they had the original TV series and then they rebooted the TV series. And it's, I just, I hate to throw this up, but it's like the Disneyfication of everything. I remember, people have a lot of issues with The Last Jedi, and I can't remember the specific scene, but because I haven't seen that movie. But I just remember there was a tense moment. There was action. There was fucking shrapnel on the ground. Some stuff was on fire, and like we go to see if this character's alive, and they make a fucking joke, and I'm just like, no, you were just in an explosion. Again, if you clearly were never in danger. Yeah, because you're making a fucking joke. So it's. They started doing that. This came from this idea of we have to diffuse every bit of tension. No one's allowed to feel tense. Actually, speaking of that, it's sort of in the same line that I was reminded when I was watching alien movies. Why are we scared in film for large numbers of people to be killed? Do you remember people, when Man of Steel came out, people threw a fucking hissy fit because of the end fight. And they were like, Zach, how many people do you think died? He's like, in Metropolis. He's like, I don't know, like 4,000 people. And people threw a fucking hissy fit. Yeah. 4,000 fictional people in a fictional city. So then what happens in Batman v Superman? There's a throwaway line that, who's the big fighting? Is it Darkseid? Yeah. Yeah. They're like, well, they're in the Metropolis financial district. Good thing it's after 5 o'clock, so no one's down there. I'm like, why the fuck is this? Kill them all. They're not real. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Fucking kill somebody.
Yeah. I hate that. It's like, oh, that's not the character. The Superman don't do that. Well, that's the story is like taking them there. He's got to stop this guy. And then being mad that he snaps his neck. Like, what do you want him to do? Like, he's in a situation.
Well, everyone wants their gritty, realistic superhero movies, and they're not as dark and gritty as they are now. They've kind of backed off of that. That was a fad for a while. But it is the fact that, they're just like, well, you have these two superpowered beings. What do you want them? Do you want them to go fight in a fucking field? Is that what you want? It's going to be boring. Yeah. And again, they're fictional. Who cares? You want your realistic superhero movies. That's what actually Marvel did handle that well with some of the Captain America stuff. It's like people are dying.
It's a really big part. I mean, Civil War. I mean, even Age of Ultron, that's kind of Civil War is the fallout of Age of Ultron, really.
I'm sorry, nice guys, we brought up Civil War in your podcast episode. Very sorry.
And this is why the nice guys didn't make anything.
Because everybody eventually wandered over to Civil War when talking about them. Should we go see the nice guy? Hey. And I'm not saying all the things I'm complaining about with action movies. The Nice Guys doesn't do this. No. They killed some people. It's all good to the story. Yeah. But I thought about the other day, why the fuck are we scared to kill fictional people in a movie? And I sound like I'm some sort of masochist in that, like I just want people to die. But it's not that. It's the fact that movies are just a bunch of pussies anymore. Yeah. God.
I mean, and maybe that's why John Wick works now. I don't know. Like that's
And you know what else too with these action movies? No one gets sweaty anymore. That's the fucking problem.
John Wick does.
Does he get sweaty? Good
gets
for John.
sweaty. Oh yeah.
That was the other. Ripley is fucking soaked.
Oh yeah.
And as a guy who sweats brushing his teeth, you don't look distressed if you're not. There was even, I think, the first couple Fast and Furious movies The Rock was in, he would be sweaty. They misted him. He's not sweaty anymore.
Yeah.
So on top of the fact that they're quipping their way through it, you're not even breaking a sweat. Literally not breaking a sweat. Nobody's sweaty in these movies anymore.
Yeah.
Get sweaty. Spritz them all over so they look just a little distraught.
Yeah.
Not everyone needs to be ready to shoot a calendar after their big action scene, right?
This is true. Yeah.
They should look exhausted. Where'd movies go, Josh?
On your TV. That's where
When did this and why did this happen? Why did this happen that movies, and I guess I'm specifically saying action movies.
Yeah.
But why did action movies become such a sissy genre?
I know.
Business people running studios. Because if you make it too violent, too scary, you can't take your kids to see it.
Right.
And there's 2 or 3 tickets we're not going to sell.
Yeah. To go back to Tom Cruise again, Top Gun Maverick, which is, I mean, they're shooting down fighter planes, but nobody's worried about those pilots dying or anything.
But we don't even get a country.
We don't get a country or anything. And is that, I don't know, is it if we draw attention to where the people are dying, that's what bothers people? I don't know.
But that's it. I guess we're not. Everyone wants to complain on the internet. Everyone certainly recently has a very strong political opinion they want to throw on the internet. But if our movies take a stance, although I don't know, actually maybe Maverick didn't want to do that because people are sick of movies taking a political stand. Their movies are too political. They're too woke. So if we say it's China because it was China in Top Gun Maverick, if we say it's China, that's going to piss people off.
Yeah. That's true. That movie,
and we can't sell them, and we can't sell the movie in China.
Exactly.
I don't even know if it had to have released in China. It made $1 billion.
Yeah. Why is it that some movies are just doing that and some aren't? It's like, it seems like maybe there's like one big movie every 2 years, and that's about it.
I mean,
maybe I don't know.
I think as far as like an actual country as a threat, global threat. This is why people keep going back to the World War II because I think we all can still agree Nazis were dicks.
Yeah, that's easy.
You can kill them by the millions and never feel bad about it.
Yep, that's the easy one. That's true.
That's it. That's why people keep going back to World War II because there's no... Even the Germans would be like, you can kill as many Nazis as you want. So
yep, very true.
That's where we are. That's where we are with this. So,
man, yeah.
So that's it.
The nice guys.
The nice guys.
No Nazis in this one.
Somebody certainly was. I don't know. You got anything else to say about The Nice Guys?
I don't know. This is such a fun movie.
Yeah, and you know what? There's got to be people. Your kids went to bed already, or people without kids, or whatever. Because this is not a movie for children.
No.
And I would say. Sit down. It's just under 2 hours. I think it moves pretty quickly. It's fun. It's a good fun. I don't think we can stress enough how good Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling are. Like, even watching it again this morning, I'm like, are we sure we can't do a sequel to this?
I know. Or even like, now that they have their own they have their own agency that they're working on. Do we do like a case of the week show with them?
Sadly, I would assume those two are not up for that.
No, they're past that, I think.
I don't think they would be willing to do that, but yeah. Actually, quick detail that because I'm looking at the IMDb page of this and I noticed this. Did you notice once Ryan got his cast? He wears a jacket in almost every scene. He's also cut the sleeve of every jacket he owns.
Yeah.
Why not wear it? Just don't wear a jacket.
Yeah.
He cuts the sleeve of every jacket he owns.
That's true.
There's all these great details, and I don't know. I just didn't go into this expecting Ryan Gosling to play the biggest fucking idiot on the planet. Like,
And he does it so well. I think this really is, like, as you said, maybe his audition for Ken.
For Ken?
In a way.
Is he funnier in this or in Ken? Or in Barbie?
I'd say in this.
In this, yeah.
You haven't seen Barbie, right? Yeah.
No.
He's good in it.
It's too woke!
It's too woke.
I can't watch it.
I'm watching that girl movie.
All that pink? I'm going to have my period watching Barbie.
No, I think he's much funnier in this, but I do like Barbie. Yeah, this is really the first goofy.
Barbie for me is just one of those movies where everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's really good, it's worth a watch. I believe you.
Yeah.
And as a result, I'm probably not going to see it. Like, is it good? Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah. It's fine. I'm sure it's fine. I want to be surprised. So I didn't know what to expect of this.
Yeah.
So yeah. Do we know of anything Shane Black's as a director is working on?
I know we were saying before his latest was the Predator.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't a huge fan of, but I know some people might have been. That one just gets a little too silly for me.
And I think that bombed really hard.
Yeah. Oh, he's Lethal Weapon 5 is in development.
Is he directing that? That would actually be really good for him.
It would be. No, it doesn't look like it. He's got a movie in post-production called Play Dirty, which is a Mark Wahlberg movie. Oh, boy.
Ugh, I don't like that.
Let's see. It follows Parker, a craftsman and professional thief who approaches his job with a straightforward, no-nonsense work ethic, and he is also deadly. From Shane Black and the Anthony Bagarozzi, who was a writer.
I'm sorry,
of the Nice Guys.
Could you read that again? I fell asleep and was dreaming of bees when you were reading that. Oh my God, what a piece of shit.
Sounds like a Mark Wahlberg movie.
Oh my God. So anyway, unfortunately, I feel like, and I may have said this already, I feel like Shane Black's sort of style of film kind of gets overlooked because I think in a very short burst, certainly something you might see in a trailer, his style of filmmaking comes off as very much a lot of what gets made. Mm-hmm. But Shane does have his own style and the way he writes, and it's not a bunch of like his stuff is his writing is funny, his writing is clever. As we were talking about, there's a bunch of little details that are funny, which makes his movies worth watching more than once.
Yeah.
Comedy these days is a character does something weird, walks away, and the other one goes, "So that just happened." Like that's a fucking joke these days.
Yeah.
And that's not Shane. Shane doesn't do that. Actually, I did want to point out when Ryan finds the body of that producer.
Oh, Sid, yeah.
He goes full Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah.
Which again begs the question, who the fuck is this movie for? Like,
very true.
People old enough to get that reference, like all those noises. I was like, he's just doing Bugs Bunny. Like, yeah. Was that deliberate? So that's all I got.
Yeah.
On the Nice Guys.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think, it's nothing super deep happening here, just a lot of fun.
It was fun. And that's okay. Sometimes movies should be fun.
Yep.
Again, it's I think I've said this before. The characters are stupid, but the movie doesn't treat you like you're stupid. And that's an A+ in my book.
Yeah.
So thanks, Shane. And hopefully you'll get to do another one of these one day.
Yeah.
So
I hope so.
So that's everything from us this week. Again, The Nice Guys, check it out. I think next time we're going to do Identity by James Mangold of Logan fame and some other movies.
Yeah.
Although, wait, didn't he have something come out recently?
A Complete Unknown.
Was that his?
It was, yeah.
Good for him. So this will very be topical. Maybe some search. Well, that's a search engine optimized movie. So... Yeah, so we're going to do Identity from 2007. I think it'll be a great movie for another movie for Josh and I to talk about, like, movies these days.
Yes.
So check it out. And, we'll see everybody next time.
We'll see you then. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Look at the bright side. Nobody got hurt.
People got hurt.
I'm saying I think they died quickly, though, so I don't think that they got hurt.
Come on!